What's happening, people? Welcome to another episode of Natty News Daily. We've got man of the hour, president of the WNBF, Bob Bell, on with us tonight. How are you, my man? Thank you for coming on.
Nice to join you guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No, this is, I think for the three of us anyways, we can probably all speak to how exciting, and I think this will be a really good episode to get out to people a little bit more. So just briefly, man, give a quick introduction. How long have you been with the WNBF? How long have you been running the show, for those that don't know?
Well, we started competing in the 90s. Obviously, the organization started in the late 80s. But my wife Tina turned pro with the WNBF before I did, and we were actually event promoters 1998, 1999. That was kind of our launch into. Actually, it was NGA, back in those times before the IMBF's inception. So Nancy Andrews, Dave Gooden, some of our really good friends that we were pros with. Just some issues with organizational stuff. You guys kind of know some of the history with natural bodybuilding, but we started with the NGA. We were there, I think, 1 or 2 years, and then the IMBF evolved as the only amateur affiliate of the WNBF. So we wanted to stay with the organization at the time, and unfortunately had to split our ways with them. So promoted for several years, continued to promote, turned pro in 2000, I believe, and competed for a few years as a pro. Got to know a lot of really incredible people in the organization. We had a separation from the WNBF at one point in 2013. Actually, it was before that. It was 2000, I think, 10. The former owner of the WNBF did some things that we didn't agree with. Put a promoter in our backyard without involving us. Turned out to be not a really great thing for the IMBF, the WNBF at the time. And we decided to go our separate ways because of that decision. And we're with the IFPA at the time, and the NBF and the IFPA. So we do have a lot of history. Like I said before, we could talk about natural bodybuilding for many, many episodes, but yeah, and then ended up coming back to the WNBF in 2014. Had the opportunity to purchase the organization with my wife Tina and Nancy Andrews in the East, and from there it's been absolutely incredible. We've really done a good job growing the organization. Definitely going to pat myself on the shoulder on that. As you guys have seen the growth internationally, that's been super special to us, and it's been a major focus. Been challenging to grow in the U.S., but internationally it's been much easier. The legacy of the WNBF, the integrity with drug testing and consistent drug testing on and off season has really propelled us, I think, to the top. We're going to continue to do that. So that's kind of a super quick history of the 90s to 2021.
Awesome. So we posted on the Natty News page, submit a question if there's anything people want to know. And I think that's what will make the bulk of this episode, just kind of a little bit of a Q&A with yourself. I know probably the three of us could ask you questions till we're blue in the face, but maybe we'll save that for another episode, and we'll just kind of open this up to what the viewers want to know about. So the first one, let's just briefly touch on drug testing. We don't need to go into the nitty gritty of how you guys test and what you test for, but just briefly touch on the importance of drug testing, because I think that's something that the three of us can definitely attest to, that, if you're going to claim to be a natural organization, if you're going to claim to promote natural shows, then there needs to be drug testing. So can you just touch on your opinions on that?
I mean, that's the core of the WNBF values. That's something that we started, in our inception, consistent drug testing, real drug testing. Yeah. We can talk about urine. That's one way of testing. The polygraph testing is definitely a bigger piece for us, more important piece. But integrity in sports and drug testing and the fairness of sports is really what should be tying everything together. And within fair and level competition, there has to be drug testing. There's a lot of people that talk about drug testing. We prove that we do it. We prove that we do it consistently. As you guys know, off and on season, we do obviously urine test all of our winners. We off-season drug test our pros and amateurs if we choose to. And then the polygraph testing piece is very important. We are the only tenured drug-free organization. We're proud to be that way. We made that decision just a few years ago to separate ourselves. The younger people in the world are very conservative on supplements, drug use, any drug history. And so we thought that was an important move for us.
Yep.
But the drug testing is by far what has made us, I think, the most renowned organization, because we do prove that we do it. And we're really proud of that. And like I said, a lot of people say they're doing certain things. We know what we're doing, and that's all we're focused on.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, the urine testing is WADA compliant. We have 2 labs that we work with. One is in Utah, one is in California. So that is strictly, WADA compliant. Anything that they're testing for, we're testing for. And then of course the polygraph piece, the 10-year drug-free piece, urine only goes back so far, 6 months, 9 months, maybe a year, if that. But the polygraph testing is huge for us, and we weed people out all the time. And I'm very proud of that, because imagine what is on the natural organizations where there's no testing before they get on stage. Just imagine who is on those stages with people that have never touched anything. You don't know. So we're proud to make people know that we're serious about it, and that we're happy to provide that ultimate testing experience for any athlete who wants to come to the INBF or the WNBF.
Yeah, I will say to the polygraph, for anybody that hasn't been polygraph tested, I'd never been till I come competed with you guys. And I'm not gonna lie, it was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life, and I've never done anything wrong. And to be an individual who is 100% natural, to sit there and be questioned repeatedly about taking things and not having taken things, I can only imagine like the fear that would ensue if you were trying to skirt the system, right? Because it's definitely very intense.
Yeah, and it's not. I think a lot of people, a lot of the organizations that decide to not do it, they will just say that it doesn't work. We do a very good job polygraph testing. We catch people almost at every single event. They're pros in other organizations, and we're disqualifying people for 10 years to life. But the way that we do the polygraph is I think better than anybody else. We have a lot of oversight from myself, from some of the top examiners in our country and abroad. We work with licensed specialists, people that have drug that are retired police officers, retired homicide investigators. They know someone that's lying when they walk through the door, and the polygraph testing is done in a super compliant way, and we feel that it's definitely making a difference in the sport for sure.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, and those polygraph examiners are third party, like completely independent from the organization, correct? That's someone you contract with.
That is a conflict. You guys, I know the intent behind the question, but yeah, no one is in the ownership position or is a promoter of any way for us. That is a total conflict of interest, and yeah, we don't believe in something like that.
Yeah. And just like without going into the nitty gritty, like I've done polygraphs with the INBF, I've done them with other organizations as well, and like your guys is, I mean, you can tell it's very legit. It's lengthy, it's detailed, you guys aren't messing around when you do it, and that I can respect that for sure, because that is, that's like you said, a very big part of it.
I mean, it shows our integrity, right? We don't just allow someone to come in and ask 3 questions and they're on and off a polygraph machine in 3 minutes, 5 minutes. That shows no integrity. It's not good for the sport. Our examiners would never do that. It questions their professionalism, their integrity, their art form. It is an art, and now we don't operate that way.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. All right. Next question. With regards to pros and their requirements to compete, that's something that 3 different people asked regarding why that rule is in place. Can you elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, if it's regarding, we don't accept pro cards from other organizations. Obviously, not everybody polygraph tests, so we're just not going to take their pro card. We ask all pros from other organizations to requalify. Even if they do polygraph tests, we want them to requalify with us, go through the process that everybody else does. In terms of competing elsewhere, is that
no? So you guys, correct me, I could be maybe misunderstanding, but you guys, as a pro, to keep your pro card, you have to compete every 2 years, no?
We want you to compete every 2 years. We want you to compete the first year that you qualify. The rules are different for international athletes. Those will change as we continue to grow. But we want you to compete within that first year. We want that drug test on file again. But every couple of years, we do grant some medical waivers for people that, Brian Whitaker has two knee surgeries, right? We're gonna let him keep his membership up to date. But people have families, they injure themselves, whatever it is, they can't compete. So we will allow a little bit of flexibility, but the timeline primarily is because we want you checking that box, and we want you acknowledging that you've read the banned substance list. And if we choose to drug test you off season, we can do that because we have a contract signed, and we can make sure that we're not liable if we come and drug test you and you fail and you weren't a member. So we want to make sure that our membership base is consistent and up to date.
Now, from an athlete's perspective, so for me, I will be almost 3 years to the day by the time I step on stage again, and it'll be probably the best 3 years from a progress perspective of my life. Now, as an athlete, do you think maybe that 2 year, you have to compete every 2 years, could that potentially diminish the quality of the physique I bring if I don't get maybe as long as of an off season as maybe I'd want?
I don't think so. I mean, you could be dead in 2 years, right? So, we want people to try to compete as much as they can, not for income or to support the organization, but to enjoy the process. I only unfortunately had competed as a pro only a couple times. So we want you guys to have the opportunity to compete, but taking 5 years off is not always beneficial either, right? So a lot of people have different opinions on that, but we want you to keep your membership up to date, and we want those boxes checked.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I understand, wanting athletes to compete, but like for me, like, and I know for a lot of others, like a competitive season takes a while to simply just recover from in general. And I know a lot of guys, aren't feeling normal till, 6 months after their last show. So, I mean, I'm in favor of extending that length, but that's, I like at least a 3 or 4 year off season, but that's kind of my prerogative, because I like coming out of my season, I'm not expecting to feel normal until, I just came out of my season probably April, something like that, to feel completely like hormonally normal. So, and like, I don't really plan on competing maybe till 2024. I didn't win a WNBF pro card, but if I did, that would be kind of forcing that timeline. So that's just my general thoughts on the matter.
Yeah, we've seen some athletes that have taken several years off, that have kept their pro membership up to date. Maybe
So
they
if
had
you
an
keep
injury.
your membership up to date, you're good then.
If
You don't
you
have to
fall out,
compete.
if you fall outside of 3 years, we have you requalify. And
Okay.
we've seen some athletes, because they take that much time off, they kind of fall out of the competitive mode, and sometimes their physiques suffer. So we want to keep the timeline tight. We want to keep athletes coming to our stages. We want to help support our pro promoters who take on a lot of they are renting facilities, they are paying prize money, they're drug testing, so all that lands on the promoter. So we want to keep supporting them by encouraging our athletes to compete.
Okay.
Fair
That's
enough.
fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, it's not a it's not a black and white yes or no, right? Everybody's situation's different. There's people that I know that compete every year and they seem to make progress just fine, and there's people like maybe myself or Dan that maybe would opt for a longer time off. But at the end of the day, it's all athlete dependent, right? And if the sport continues to grow, then those issues will continue to work themselves out, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
And
All right. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, playing devil's advocate against both you, Leroy, and Dan. I mean, we've seen how much the sport's evolved. I mean, I started competing just in 2017, and just in these last couple of years, like the quality of the athlete is phenomenally changed for the better. So a pro, like had I won my pro card back then and not competed since, I mean, the caliber of the people that are amateurs now would have just like wiped most pros off. I mean, look at some of the guys that are there now. It's so much more competitive. So by forcing you to compete more frequently, maybe it forces you to stay a little bit more competitive.
Maybe you got to step it up. Yeah.
In some instances, it's harder to qualify than it is to do good as a pro. The stages are very competitive these days, like you said, especially in the West. Our pro qualifiers out here are no joke, and they're usually pretty thick with competition, pretty deep. There's definitely a few more shows in the East, but you guys have a great opportunity with WNBF Canada up there to
Yeah.
get those pro cards. Dan, get after it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's
I'm
and
getting
that-
it next year, calling it right now.
James, that's a big part of the reason I took such an extended off season, because I knew, well, we mentioned before, but I won my pro card with the OCB in 2018, and I really did not feel ready to compete as a pro right out of the gate. And having that 3 years was huge for me. I mean, I added about 10 pounds of lean tissue since then. So, I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I put a lot of effort into my off season though. I mean, I know a lot of guys, Bob, as you kind of alluded to, kind of lose that tunnel vision, lose that, that desire and that stage that's, immediately coming. But yeah, the James, that was a big reason I took an extended off season. And actually this competing this year was even kind of like, I was thinking about maybe next year. So it was pulling the trigger a little, not early, but it was on the early end of what I was, looking at. But
We have a lot of people that turn on pro cards with us. They just don't feel like they're ready. Maybe they kind of timed it to where the competition, maybe it was a smaller event. They just happen to turn pro. They're not ready. The WNBF is definitely more, I'm going to say it is more competitive than other amateur organizations that we know it is. There's a lot of pro card winners with other organizations that do come to the WNBF to requalify. They never qualify. So that speaks to the level that we have, which is really awesome.
yeah, I will say the IMBF amateur shows are some of the more competitive shows, that for sure.
It's good and bad for us. Sometimes
Yeah.
it turns people away and they just want that pro card, which is a whole nother conversation. I wish
we won't get into that.
I wish athletes would focus on really just improving their physique. The pro card will come when it's due.
Yeah.
And just try not to worry about that. Enjoy the experience, because one day you won't be able to compete anymore.
Yeah, no, for sure.
agree.
Okay. James kind of briefly touched on the improvement of the quality of athletes these days. With regards to the standards and, the evolution of like judging criteria and stuff like that, we've seen kind of, people really push for conditioning, which can sometimes come at a cost of, fullness, muscularity and stuff like that. Can you speak to, what does the WNBF maybe look for in, a pro athlete, a world champion? Where's that fine balance between that really dugout conditioning without sacrificing the full look? I just kind of touch on judging criteria, because that was asked about.
So for bodybuilding, the amateur ranks and the pro ranks are the same. We want the biggest, most muscular guy or gal that's symmetrical, hard, lean, defined, shredded, all that, all those adjectives. That's what we're looking for. The WNBF has always focused on good structure. I mean, you've never seen a winner in our organization that has never been a perfect X. If you look back at any photo, everybody's a perfect X, especially a world champ or a multi-world champ. So when we talk about judging criteria, our criteria is very specific. We do, I think, a really good job. We've been with two other organizations. I think we do a much better job training our judges, which is good for the athlete, because we're looking for the same thing in Utica, California, to Boston and down to Georgia. The judges are looking for the same type of athlete that fits the criteria for any category. So for bodybuilding, you want to be symmetrical, muscular, hard, defined, all that. It is not a shredded glute show. We can see glutes from every angle. There was a time frame where you had really, really lean people that, were, winning pro cards that weighed, 160 pounds, but they were 6 foot tall. It just didn't look good. And not to offend anybody, but that's
we would all agree with that, right? Like, I think, there was maybe a phase where it was like whoever was the most shredded kind of got,
and
I guess,
Bob, you kind of alluded to it. Some of these shows became a shredded glutes contest rather than a bodybuilding contest.
Yeah, who can diet?
It's bodybuilding. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we want really good muscular physiques that are perfect X's. We talk about that in our judges PowerPoints. We'll go through that if you want another time with events in the future that you're looking at doing. So so depending on what the criteria is for us in a given category, we have fit body. A lot of people don't have that. We're looking for specific things. In bikini, we're looking for specific things. To all athletes that might follow up listening to this podcast, don't ever get on a stage with any organization if you don't know what the criteria is. You can't expect to do well if you don't know what the criteria is. If you're getting on stage and you're a men's physique competitor and you're doing front double biceps poses, that's not going to score well with the INBF, WNBF. It's not a bodybuilding show. It's a physique competition. So you're expected to do quarter turns, one hand on the hip at all angles, bikini, one hand on the hip, two hands in the front. So we're looking for really specific things, and that can slide you up or down, 1 to 2 placings if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So just, for everybody that's listening, go to worldnaturalbb.com, take a look at our bodybuilding, fit body if you're interested in posing in heels, executing some open-handed poses, or whether it's bikini physique. Very specific on the criteria.
With the WNBF UK having the classic, I don't know if you want to call it division per se, but is that something that was strictly done by them, or is that something you're potentially looking to throw in there with the rise in popularity of classic physique?
We won't adopt that. The only reason that we allow the other organizations to do it is because they have to be competitive with people in their neighborhood, right down the street, different organizations. But I've been hashtagging natural bodybuilding as classic physique since we took over the organization. So we just didn't. Not everybody's eligible with us, which means that our organizations are going to be smaller. So we don't need to add classic physique. The whole purpose behind classic physique was to look at those smaller physiques, and now look at it, it's just out of control again. So you can't control the drugs. You don't want to control the drugs. That's a whole other conversation. But all of our physiques, if you put them in classic physique shorts, change the poses, they already look that way. So we just encourage athletes to include classic physique poses in your posing routines, but we're sticking to natural bodybuilding and keeping it the way the sport started.
Yeah, I think Kendall would be a prime example of that, right? Like you throw the classic trunks on Kendall and all of a sudden he's classic physique, whereas you put bodybuilding trunks on him, all of a sudden he's a bodybuilder, right? It's the look is interchangeable. I think there's certain, physiques that maybe would fit it more so, but at the end of the day, they're still bodybuilders.
Yeah, and then if you allow crossovers, you're going to have guys going into bodybuilding in classic physique, and then it just gets messy. And or if you make people choose, then natural bodybuilding's further split. It was already split with physique. Nothing wrong with physique, but when physique came along, just like when figure came along, a long time ago, it split the women bodybuilders in half, if not more. We don't want to make any decisions like that. We don't follow what everybody else does. We do what works for us.
For sure. With that being said, we're coming up on time here. Can you just touch on the prestige that the WNBF holds, that a WNBF world title holds, even a WNBF pro card that may never win a pro title again, but they're a WNBF pro, they're a quality WNBF pro, just speak to the value you feel that holds.
Since we started in the sport, the WNBF title, the WNBF pro card has always been the hardest to get, and that's why I think it's the most prestigious. No one can talk about our drug testing. We do a good job at that. We do a great job with that. And we're willing to sacrifice the numbers of competitors that we have that are pro card holders because it's so hard to get. And I think that our growth internationally has been super successful for us, reaching other people, giving people opportunities to compete in their country, truly drug tested, that they can actually win a WNBF pro card and not have to travel here to have a shot at one. So we're proud of that. We're going to continue to keep the WNBF up here and do everything that we can to make sure that our organization stays on top for the next 30 years.
That's awesome. Looking ahead at 2022, is there anything that we can expect as far as, I don't know, any changes, anything exciting coming down the pipeline?
Well, it just depends on what this new variant, right? I mean, just an announcement.
We won't talk about that.
I know, but it is, it may come into effect. I'm expecting for us to have 275 athletes show up from 25 countries this year was amazing. Did not expect that. I think next year, if things are fairly calm, I think we will blow up into a 400 or 500 person worlds. The year after that, I think we'll be even bigger. We always have the biggest show in the sport, which we're super proud of. No one touches the numbers that we do. That's good and bad. It's bad because it's hard, because you gotta organize an event to accommodate that many people. But 2022 will be in LA. It'll be at the same venue that it was in 2016 and 2018. So that's exciting. We'll look forward to going back to the East in 2023 or 2020. 2023.
Wait. So is that New York?
Not sure yet. New York's really hard. It's really expensive. I know it's close to you.
Well, I'm already, just with the way my season's gonna play out next year, I'm thinking 2023 fall is really, really attractive. And if you're heading to the East, well, that's
we're just not
away.
Yeah, we're not sure. We still have to talk to our partner about that. But Georgia, Florida, somewhere warm. Everybody from the East that is
I'll
cold.
take warm.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody from Europe's like, hey, just try to keep it in somewhere warm. Even Vegas was in the 70s, so that was really nice.
Yeah.
Vegas was a really successful event for us. But we're looking forward to next year. Hopefully it'll be a tame one with this damn virus. Yeah.
And Natty News will be there reporting live.
We good, man. We
Road
look
trip.
forward to. You guys are welcome. You guys are welcome to be there.
Appreciate that, man. All right. Where people want to learn more about WNBF, where do they reach? Social media, website, all that good stuff?
Yeah, everything's at WNBF official or worldnaturalbb.com.
Perfect.
Follow us, send us some messages. We try to get back to everybody, but it's myself doing it. It's kind of hard sometimes, but if they have any drug testing questions, concerns, they can email our drug testing, WNBFdrugtesting@gmail.com. That's where it starts every time. If you have any questions or concerns, send a message to a promoter. Go to our website, look at our events page, reach out to the promoter in your state. And then the first question they're going to ask is, do you have any questions or concerns on banned substances? And then we kind of talk about eligibility. And then we want you to step on our stages and have a good experience with us.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, people, if you guys enjoyed this episode, let us know. Don't forget to like the video, follow us on Instagram at natty_news_daily. And I'm sure this will not be the last episode with Bob Bell here at WNBF. So thanks again, guys, and we'll see you guys in the next one.